Hey there, I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. In this podcast, each episode is a journey through captivating interviews, engaging dialogues, and personal anecdotes that explore the depths of arts, culture, politics, and everything in between. My goal? To leave you inspired, informed, and entertained. Often random, but always relevant, always real, and practically nothing is off limits. So whether you're an art aficionado, a political junkie, or simply someone seeking a fresh perspective, this podcast is for you. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the new season. I want to thank every single one of you guys for being here all these years. And now we're going into our premiere season 5. My guest today is the one and only Mr. Reese Dickerson. Reese, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for having me. Listen, this is more than an honor. Tracy, I tell you, I've watched you for years. I've watched everything you've done. And I feel like a superstar. I feel like $1 million. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, brother.
Reese, you are a superstar. You are.
Nah, I'm just me. Thank you, man. Thank you, brother. I'm humble. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and jump right in. I want to talk about what you're doing in Jacksonville, and what you feel about the future of arts and culture in North Florida.
Yeah.
First of all, what was your defining moment in your life that made you realize your passion for music and arts?
Oh wow, my defining moment. Wow. So I've had several, but the defining moment for me that I decided, yeah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Um, Day one at Douglas Anderson School of the Arts in 1985, August of 1985. So take a little young black kid from the North Side, from the hood, and who grew up in the Pentecostal church, and you drop him in an environment with all these different kids, black kids from the beach, punk kids, hillbillies, rednecks, Indians, goth kids. So I'm completely lost in this whole new environment. And once I got there and got a chance to talk to and rub shoulders with people who did not look like me, who didn't think like me, it touched something inside of here. It touched a little weird guy in here who knew that there was more than what I grew up with, who knew that there was more than the poor area of town that I grew up with, where we killed our own chickens and raised our own ducks, and I poured swill. So they wanted Douglas Anderson School of the Arts. Yeah, they wanted Douglas Anderson School of the Arts really, really, really solidified that. And then one day, during my senior year, I'm gonna put a cough drop in my mouth. I've been dealing with health issues, but one day during my senior year, I produced a show. We used to do this thing called Showtime, and they allowed me to produce a show where I'd gather all the questions, and I chose performing arts groups. And I got a chance to hold a microphone and actually host and feel like a host of a show. I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm done. The bug has bit me. I'm done. I'm there. So Douglas Anderson has really, really, really affected everything of my everything as it relates to the arts and culture and community, and the decision to study classical music, and it solidified my love for jazz music. So yeah, it's all about DA. Woo woo woo.
One of the one of the things that comes to mind when I talk to many of my guests, I ask them about their passion, and then again I think about the fact that how do you approach being a host? Because many of you guys host. You host, programs, or you show up at TEDx Jacks, or you speak at open communities. How do you approach being a host?
I watch people like you, and I don't just say that because we're here, we're friends. I watch people like you. I watch people like Trevor Noah. I watch people who have done this. I've watched your Oprah Winfrey's, and I've seen how their concern first is for their guest and not being a celebrity. You walk in knowing what your audience is. You know what what you're gonna cover and what the event is. So you kind of gauge your audience. I'd go and I'd stand. Sometimes I'd stand from behind the curtain and just kind of watch the people coming in and watch the interactions of the people coming in, and then I just kind of host. I host from that perspective because I want them to feel like they're a part of what's going on. If I'm hosting a concert, if I'm promoting an event, I want to make sure that those people feel like they've had a great time, that they're a part of what's going on, and that they've not just spent their money just to come and sit and listen to somebody speak. That they're connected. So that's my perspective. It's about the people first, about me last.
Oh, yeah. Could you share with me and our viewers,
Okay.
listeners, uh, a
Yeah.
specific memory or experience from your early years in Jacksonville, Florida, that
Yeah.
profoundly influenced your musical journey?
Oh wow. Um, well, I'm born and raised in Jacksonville. I've been here all my life. I have never lived anywhere else, which is sad. And hopefully I'll be changing that really soon. I'm looking at a couple different options to move. But my early years, I sang all my life. My mom said I sang before I spoke. Um, but yeah, she said, I talked all the time. She said I was forming full sentences by the time I was 11 months old. So, but in my childhood, um, I grew up in a church called Faust Temple Church of God in Christ over on 24th and Moncrief. Small black Pentecostal church, but it was very, very, very influential in the city, in the church culture. So I grew up Pentecostal. There were two singers in our church. There was one guy, Roderick Williams, and my mother's cousin, Henrietta Telfair. Well, Henrietta went to Hampton University and studied classical music. Roderick was the announcer at our church, and he was very articulate and very well spoken. And he also studied opera and classical music. He studied at UNF and at JU, one of the most amazing tenors ever, you know. And they sang one Sunday morning, they sang a song by Lionel Harris and Sandy Patty called More Than Wonderful. And with their
Oh,
voices and their tones, they were the reasons why I decided to study classical vocals. I could sing, I've sang all my life. That's all I've done. So I sang in the church, but hearing them I'll never forget, it was 1983. I was a 13-year-old kid. 13-year-old kid. And they sang that song and it just changed everything for me. It just changed it all. I was like, there's more to music than what I'm hearing here in my
mhm,
church.
yeah.
So from that point, I'd started listening to, classical music, more classical and sacred music. I was curious. I started listening to jazz. My granddad introduced me to jazz music as a 7-year-old kid. But it was that moment when they sang that song, which I went on to sing with, people I've traveled the country with and sang. I sang that song. Lionel Harris is one of my favorite singers in the world. Um, as a tribute to them, just because they were the reasons why I, love the music that I love today. But it was that moment as a kid, as a child. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I will tell you this, and a lot of people don't know this, but I played in the praise and worship band at Christ Church Mandarin for probably 6 years, and I actually sang in one of their big Easter celebrations at the ViStar
Wow.
Arena. A lot of people look at me and
Shout
they're
out to
like,
Christchurch. Shout out to Jason Cullum. Yeah, man. I love those guys out there. Yeah.
I was Jason. Yes, I was in that group before Jason. Uh,
Okay. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah.
before Jason. Their original pastor, he was, oh my God, a mentor to me. A mentor to
Wow.
me.
Good stuff. Yeah.
I used to sit in the front row during the sermons, and he would come up to me and say, "You know what? You're a fixture here."
That's good stuff. Yeah. That's good stuff,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. However, have left the church, and we won't go
Mhm.
into that. And for whatever reasons people choose to do so, I won't go into that.
Yeah.
Now, uh,
Yeah.
but I loved playing in the band there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was one of the high points of my life. I will tell you. One of the things I often hear about old musicians wind up playing in churches because they have better equipment.
Listen, all the equipment in the churches I've sang in is much better than what I have at home. So, yeah,
Yeah.
man, it is better mics, better in ears, better monitors, better
Oh
speakers.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Always
The
better
big
stuff.
church.
Yeah,
The
always
big.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not kidding. The big churches have better equipment, no doubt. All right. All right.
Oh
Uh,
man, yeah.
your your ability to sing comfortably in
Okay.
a variety of styles,
Mhm.
it truly is impressive. It truly is impressive,
Thank
my
you.
man. You have a strong
Thank you.
voice. I've listened to a lot of people locally, and eh, you have got a very strong voice. And one of the
Wow,
people
thank you.
I interviewed recently said that she uh, loves and follows people with strong voices. And I told Megan McKenzie, and I told her that
Yeah, oh,
she,
oh,
I told her, I told her that she indeed has a strong voice, and
yeah,
my God, you have a strong voice. How do you approach the challenge of versatility uh, as an artist when you move, when you move between, you know, different
yeah,
songs? How do you approach that?
yeah. So I remember as a kid coming up, I would sit and I would listen. Everything I listened to, I would put before I had headphones. I'd sit on the floor in front of my bed, and I'd sit one speaker here and one speaker here, and I'd sit in the middle of it. So my thing, I just listen and listen to the nuances of different voices and listen to the nuances of different instruments. Um, and like I said, after going to Douglas Anderson, I began to, appreciate all these different styles of music and knew that there was more. I wanted to be a vocal chameleon. I was reading a book once, and I heard someone say, I can't remember who it was. I believe it was either I believe it was Herbie Hancock or Bobby McFerrin. They said, listen to the original first. Learn the original first, the way the writer and the arranger wrote it. Master that first. Then you can add what you do to that. So when I approach country music, let's say country, I love country music. Um, I sit and I listen to one of my favorite songs is "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry" by Hank Williams Sr. Absolutely love that
Oh,
song. But
yeah.
when I sat and listened to that song, I want to hear the pain that Hank Williams felt. I want to hear what he was doing, and I would sit back and I'd repeat that. I'd repeat that. I'd repeat what they were doing. When I listen to classical music, as techniques taught to me by some of my vocal coaches, Wayne Bailey. Absolutely, love Wayne Bailey. Dr. William Brown, who since passed. One of the things they tell me is sit down and emulate what you hear, emulate what you hear. Take and learn by phrase, by phrase. So that's what I do, and it's nothing new. It's it's what we do as musicians. But that's what I
Yeah.
do, and I want every time I approach a song, if I'm doing a Christian song, if I'm doing classical, if I'm doing jazz, if I'm doing rock music, I did Purple Rain for the first time a couple months ago. I want to do that song true to form. I don't want to just be a black guy who gets up there and he knows the words and he kind of knows the melody. No, I want to be able to do that and stay true to form. So that's always my approach, is to understand the song that I'm doing, understand the genre or the environment that I'm singing in, and and go that route.
And I will tell you, you mentioned Purple Rain. Uh, you absolutely slayed that version.
Oh wow! Thank you, man. Man, I appreciate that, brother. That I appreciate that. I was at I got invited to be a part of a event that was happening at Universal Studios. Shout out to Ramona the Riot, Janetta Caballero. Love you, sis. Thank you so much. I believe in championing people who have taken time to pour into my life and to sow into my life and believe enough in me to have me a part of whatever they're doing. So I went down there. It was a competition, kind of like The Voice. So I was there with a couple people who had been on The Voice and a couple someone who had been on America's Got Talent. And all of the songs that I chose leading up to that, I couldn't do them. Like my first choice was "Use Me" by Bill Withers. Well, they didn't have the lyrics for the big screen. I'm like, oh crap. Well, it ended up
Oh,
that I worked out with the band that, yeah, man, I love that. I love that tune. I love that tune.
I know,
So
right?
we worked out with
Right?
the band that I was able to perform that. Well, when we got down to the competition round or the final round with the four finalists, I didn't know what I was going to sing. I said, I'm going to do something that shocks both me. It's a challenge to me, and do something that none of the audience sees coming, that they absolutely don't see coming. So I did Purple Rain, and I love Prince. I will always love Prince. I like the
Yes.
the stuff
Yes.
that's not commercial, the stuff that most people don't know. That's the Prince that you really need to dig into.
Right.
But I
Right.
got that song, and I knew the song. I knew the history of the song, and I took about 5 minutes, and I sat and read the lyrics. And man, that was so much fun, and the response I got was just more than what I expected. So that continued to add wood to the fire that's already burning under me, man. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for that compliment.
I can remember going to see Purple Rain in the. It was a movie, uh, theater. When I went to see it, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
only white person in the theater. It was on the north side of town, uh, and I went
Yeah,
to see it. I went to see it, and I was mesmerized, mesmerized.
yeah, man. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And a lot of people don't know is some of Prince's biggest hits, although he wrote most of them in on that Purple Rain record. Wendy and Lisa, the stuff that they wrote. Oh man, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken, Wendy and
yeah,
Lisa may have been the original writers of that song. I think they went to him with that concept of that song, Purple Rain. So Wendy and Lisa are absolutely amazing. They've been with him since the beginning, and I love. But
yeah.
yeah,
He
that
he.
movie was amazing, man.
It was. It was. And it really set the stage for um people understanding, his life. And him in Paisley
Yeah,
Park, of course, his studio there in Michigan. I
yeah,
mean, it remains as more.
Minneapolis. Yeah,
Yeah, Minnesota. You're right. Uh, it remains
hmm
as more of a monument to someone, and he gave a ton of money to that neighborhood to keep them,
oh
yeah,
yeah, oh yeah,
to support them.
yeah. Yeah, Prince was always that Prince, though as reclusive as he may have been, he made sure that he preserved and added to that neighborhood, that area.
Hmm.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things I loved about what he did. He was a weird one. He did that whole androgynous thing for a while, and which I
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
love. I think it's great. But he always gave back to that neighborhood. He always put in. Look at all the musicians in that area. Your Des Dickerson, your Morris Day, your Brown Mark, all those people from that
Yeah.
area who still to this day talk about his influence, and you can't get away from his influence on everything they do. Even now, I was watching Sheila E. When she was here a couple of
Oh,
years ago at the Jazz Festival.
I love her.
Did you see that show?
Love.
Oh my! Did you see that
Yes,
show?
I did.
Oh,
Yes, I did. I was there. I was there.
dude. man, so Sheila E. when she did that show, she opened up doing her stuff, and then she did an entire segment of just Prince stuff, and she
Yep.
was 60
Yep.
years old at the time, and for her to put on a hour and a half concert of just nonstop, you could see his influence because he was that
Yeah.
kind of an artist. That dude just went. He just went and went and went. I mean, like the Energizer Bunny, he just went. So yeah, man. I hope that when
Well,
I'm 60 years old, I'm still doing it like that,
well, Sheila was with him for
man.
years. Sheila was with him
Right,
for
right,
years. Years.
right, right. I'll tell you another person that I got a chance to spend time with, talking about Prince, Denise Matthews, who was Vanity from Vanity 6.
Yeah.
Later
Yeah.
in her life, she'd become a minister. She become a speaker. She become a Christian, converted her life and became a Christian, and traveled and spoke. Well, when my mom was my pastor back in 1999, when she started, our first year anniversary, I think we may have had 20 people in our church. My mom called me on the phone one day and she said, "I want Denise Matthews here in Jacksonville to tell her story." Three phone calls later, I called the studio in LA. No, I called the local studio here. I called the studio in LA. And then the third telephone number they gave me, I said, "Hello, this is Maurice Dickerson. I'm looking to speak to Denise Matthews." She said, "This is she." Oh my God. Oh my God. So we brought her here to Jacksonville, and she was here for 5 days. And what a wonderful, wonderful person she was. So that was a lot of fun. Patrick Evan McMillan, another singer here in town, he was a big fan. So I called him that Sunday morning. I said, "Hey, bro," I said, "Listen, I got a surprise for you. I want you to come to church with me. I want you to meet Denise Matthews." So I went and picked him up and, took him, and he got a chance to meet him and spend time with us. So, so I love Prince, and am glad that some of my life has had some kind of, rub from Prince on it. Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's amazing. Listen,
Yeah.
collaborating on your own, collaborating with
Okay.
renowned artists such as the Clark sisters and Kirk
Yeah.
Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
That must have
Yeah.
been incredible. That really must have been incredible. Can you share a particular, memorable moment from one of those collaborations?
Oh, wow. Oh, God. So yeah, I've been lucky enough that I've had the opportunity to sing backup with or with several artists. Like I said, the Clark sisters. I did back January of last year. There was a big concert with Kirk Franklin and Todd Galbraith and Maverick City. I got a phone call to be one of the backup vocalists for that in front of almost 13,000. 14,000 people in the Vistar Arena. So that was a lot of fun. I think one of my favorite, because I grew up with them. We grew up in the same church denomination. The Clark sisters. When I met Twinkie Clark, she is the one who wrote all of their songs, who penned all of their hits. So to get a chance to just sit with her and talk to her and meet her, um, that was a highlight. Because not only that, as a little boy, I had a crush on her. Ha 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 ha. But so
Yeah.
Twinkie Clark, listen, man, Twinkie Clark, she was light years ahead of her time. And if you ask most R&B or black artists about their vocal influences, the Clark sisters sit way up here. I mean,
Okay.
even in line with your Michael Jacksons, your Princes, and all these. The Clark sisters, they set the bar. They changed the game as far as gospel. They are the number one selling female gospel group in the world.
Sure.
And they still continue to this day. As a matter of fact, they were here in town last Sunday. I missed that concert, but they were here on a tour with Kirk Franklin and whatnot, and Israel Houghton and stuff here in town. But yeah, the time meeting Twinkie Clark. Another time that I really enjoyed, a buddy of ours, PJ Morton. He is an amazing, amazing artist, multi-Grammy Award winner, and he's also the MD for Maroon 5. I brought him to
Okay.
Jacksonville when I was doing concert promotions. Brought PJ Morton to Jacksonville. I was the person to actually introduce him to the area. So I brought him here 2 or 3 times, and just to be able to bring him here and introduce his music to the people here, and just to watch PJ's life blow up the way it has. He and my brother he was my brother's roommate in Atlanta when he was a 19-year-old kid. So just to, be able to meet these people and, and have them have a part in my life. John Batiste. Oh, there you go. John Batiste. Jazz Festival one year when he was here. He
Batiste.
comes off the stage. He's yeah, man. John Batiste is amazing. So he's coming through. They're doing the second line through the crowd like they do in New Orleans. And I happened to be standing there in the crowd just singing and singing. And he walked by me. He stopped, turned around, and he looked at me. He said, "Who are you?" Gave me his microphone, and they kept playing. And I'm singing over John Batiste in the crowd of people. So later that year, it was insane. And he said, man, so after the Jazz Festival, I went to his table and I thanked him graciously. He said, man, listen, I hear people and I see people all the time. He said, and I hear people singing all the time. He said, man, when I walked by you and I heard you singing, I thought to myself, who in God's name is this singing like this in this crowd? He's like, man, you are gifted. So to get that from John Batiste, man, and to have him do that, that meant millions to me, man. So yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I tell you, if you don't hear it enough, you are a gifted singer, my man. Let me.
Thank you so kindly, brother.
Let's move on to your photography. As a photographer, working on this new project you have, This Is Africa.
Yeah.
What message or story do you hope to convey? Through your images, your experience, your trip to Africa. What do you hope to? What is the message?
Well, that whole shout out to my granddad, Tommy Dickerson. They called him Uncle Pickle, who introduced me to both my two loves in life: jazz music and photography. He was a jazz fanatic and he was a photographer, and introduced me to that as a young boy as well. So the whole This Is series started when I turned 50 years old a few years ago, and took a 19-hour train ride to New York City with my camera and my equipment, and my whole idea was to go and just shoot New York and to go back and do something different. I'd never been anywhere like that by myself and never been on a train before that. So getting to meet people and tell that story. So I've dusted those photos off and I'm finishing that book first. We're trying to have that one done by the first quarter of 2024. Then we'll go to This Is Africa. Now, when I went to Africa, I was on a missions trip. We went to Kenya. We were in Nairobi, Kenya, and Mombasa and Bamba for 2 weeks. So we got a chance to travel, and I took my camera. And I wanted to just shoot what Africa is. Africa is not bloated stomachs and flies on the eyes of hungry kids in Ethiopia. Africa is not the warriors and the violence that you see of, people taking over towns and villages. That is not what Africa is. So my job, what I want to do is to take and shoot the people who I had an opportunity to, rub shoulders with and spend time with and hear them while I was on this missions trip, and just take pictures and just kind of show Africa from that perspective. So once we get that book going, my heart is to create an entire line of greeting cards, put this book out, This Is Africa, to tell the story of that trip. And the proceeds from that book and those cards, and I'll do t-shirts and stuff. The proceeds from that will go back to the church where we served to buy musical instruments. They'll go back to that church and those families to buy shoes, because I watched families walk for miles, no shoes, and sit in church, and they were just so excited to be in church, just to be around other people. So that's my heart, is to go and to sow back into their lives, man, so that they can have shoes, and maybe partner with Crocs or partner with Hey Dudes and get those guys. And we say, hey, we're going to get shoes for this whole group of young kids. We're going to get t-shirts or get, so that's the whole premise behind that. So once we start getting the proceeds for This Is Africa, I want to show these people, I want to show these kids, I want to show what Africa looks like up close and personal from a personal point of view. Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I will tell you, you are absolutely right. I went to Africa in 2005. I went to Ghana on a medical mission trip, and we went we went into some actual villages away
Yeah.
from the cities, and so yes, I did see how villagers live,
Yeah.
and there were village, chiefs, the whole 9 yards. I mean, I saw the real village portion of
Yeah.
Africa that still exists. I understand
Oh yeah.
that, I understand that, they still have the big city life and all that too, but there are still villages that exist with
You better
chiefs
believe
and
it.
the whole nine. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I sat down with chiefs in the brush, and it was extremely humbling. We broke bread, we talked, and yeah, I mean, it made me understand more about the human condition.
Yeah. 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 It will. I'll tell you, Tracy. It'll change your life. So while I was there in Africa, while we were there we were in Nairobi, and you're exactly right. You go to places, and I won't get into the whole China and Africa thing. That's a whole nother dynamic. But
Yeah.
when you
Oh,
go
yeah.
in,
Yeah. China.
brother,
Yeah. I
ooh,
know. I
that whole
know. I
colonizer
know.
thing happening right now, bro. Dude, ooh,
I,
that's a whole nother show in itself. But
oh,
so to go into Africa and to sit and see, um, they don't have divided lanes of traffic like we do. They
right.
don't have traffic lights like we do. They don't have the stop signs. So one of the things I saw when I was there, Tracy, it is dark. We're on a road. The only thing you see are headlights coming from towards you, and your headlights going that way. So it's really dark. And then during the day, you have the same situation. But what I realized, we talk about how great America is. We talk about how sounds good. Okay, that works for the people. Here's my issue. If they have nothing to guide them and nothing to dictate how you stay on this side of the street, but when you're driving on a one-way street and somebody pulls over and lets you by, what does that say about your love and your concern for people? We're great, but we have people dictating to us how to be great. They are great just because of who they are and the fact that they're so concerned about one another. Yeah, I know I may have the right of way and I may be further along, but brother, let me pull over here and you can keep going.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
watched grown men walk. One of the things I learned, and I had it happen to me, African brother grabbed me by my hand, and they walk holding hands. They're hand in hand when they walk.
Yeah.
Has
Yep.
nothing to do with their
Yep. Yep.
sexuality, has
Yep.
nothing to do with any of that.
Right.
What that
Right.
says
Right.
is,
Right.
I'm invested in you as a person, I'm invested in this conversation, and you have me. And the first time that happened to me, man, I cried like a baby. And the brother who I was talking to, he turned to me and said, "Don't cry, brother. Don't cry. You are home, and this is who you are." Oh man, it will
Oh.
change your
Oh.
life oh God, brother, listen,
Right.
man, I'm trying not to cry, bro. It's just when you have somebody, you have an elder from where you know you're from. Yes, I'm American, but I'm American by way of Africa. But when you have somebody who does not know you, have never met you, and they grab you and they hold you and they hold your hand and they talk to you and touch you just like the people you grew up with who are your biological and blood family, it is life changing.
Oh my
It is
God.
life changing,
Oh my
man. It
God.
really is.
You know,
Yeah, brother.
you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually did. I actually did a episode. Oh gosh, last year about the biological and the uh, DNA of the original Eve.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
I did. I did. I did.
Okay.
And it goes really deep, and I, it makes a lot of sense. from a scientific
Mhm.
standpoint, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that. And a lot of people in the Christian religion have a hard time. Yeah, they have a hard time understanding where the original Eve came from.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they also have a hard time understanding where, in their mind, the original concept of Jesus came from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there, and I don't want to go in that with you.
Bro, listen, you go there. That's a listen. So that's a whole nother animal because we as a church, and I'll say this, and we have done a grave disservice. I'm a Christian. I choose to believe. I choose to believe. I've dealt in the occult. I've studied demonology. I've done all that. My choice is to believe. And it's not just because that's the way I was raised, but we as the Christian church have done a disservice to the cause of Christ, and we have sacrificed Christianity for culture. We've sacrificed Christianity for comfort. We've sacrificed the presence of God, or what we know, what we consider the presence of God, for our preference. So if it doesn't happen this way, it wasn't God. Or until it happens this way that works for me and feels good for me, that's God to me. We will not look at science. We will not look at archaeology. We will not look at geography and look at the truth first. It's a concept that the Bible talks about as concept, and I won't get too far off on this. It says first natural, then spiritual. We want to skip past the natural part and be
I know.
superhuman and spiritual.
Yep.
We can't keep doing that. We can't.
No. I was raised in a Baptist household, and
Yeah.
raised with the King James version of the Bible, and you
Yeah.
know, I was a student of religion in college. I
Yeah.
took
Yeah.
courses in college, and it is something that each individual, and I've tried to tell people, time and again, faith
Yeah.
and religion are two different things. If you believe in one religion, that is totally up to you, and your faith in that religion is totally up to you.
Yeah.
There, in most of the Abrahamic religions, all of the Abrahamic religions, there is but one God.
Right.
So if you are a believer in the God concept, then you should
Yeah.
understand that Muslims, Jews, Christians, they all believe in the same person, the same God. There is but one God.
Yeah.
I hear,
Yeah.
I hear some people, often, bash, Muslim, as being terrorists, and
That
that's
is the
just not.
dumbest thing.
That is just not true. I actually have a copy of the Quran, and I have read it.
Listen, watch this. I got to do this. I'm pointing. You just said you have a copy of the Quran right here. I'm looking at just across my room. I have a big, huge King James Bible, and right beneath it, they sit crisscross like this, is a 900 page. It may be more than 900 page of the Quran that my Muslim neighbor gave me. He said, "You are the very first person who claims Christianity who would take time to sit and talk to me."
I'm with you, brother. I believe that, honestly, I don't put much weight, give much salt to the
Yeah,
King James version of the Bible. I do
yeah,
believe in researching Christianity, because there are a lot of resources to do that. And
there are. Right.
like I said, there are absolutely more than a few people that that believe that there is only one God.
And you're right. So like if we look at the King James version, what happened to the entire apocrypha that was extracted from that, and that is lost, and we don't consider the books that King James decided that would not be in there. Why? Because of his personal feelings.
Right, right,
So
right,
that we
right,
have to
right.
we have to take that into consideration. We have to look at that, and yeah, you're right. Yeah, I choose to believe. I subscribe to Christianity. Now we're the youngest religion on the planet, and that alone should let people. That alone should say to a lot of the believers, Christ followers, or disciples of God, Christianity. That in itself should say, you know what? If we believe that God is the Alpha and Omega, and that He is who He is, do you
Yes.
understand? By us being the youngest, there are other things that came before us. Do you understand that if we believe anything about the Bible, when the Bible says, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb, that kind of speaks to what some people label reincarnation. We believe, so there are a lot of things that we as Christians, we have to really look at it. We really have to consider. And a lot of us choose not to because it scares us. And it goes against everything that the American and westernized religion has lied to us and told us. Period.
I know, I know, I know. And you talking about the West Niles religions? And I don't want to step into it too deep before we
Yeah.
go.
Take your time. Take
I
your
don't,
time.
I
Yeah.
don't want to. I don't want to step into it too deep before we go. Your opinions
Yeah.
on the current conflict in Gaza.
Yeah. Yeah. So the attack on the attack by Hamas on Israel, I choose to believe that in one form or the other, those are God's chosen people, and that's just based on what I've read. Um, I was started to watch this video that gave an entirely new perspective on the entire history of Israel and Iran and things that Israel agreed to, and so. If for no other reason, without going into it, like you said, I pray for those people because they are, before they're anything else, they are people. Before they're Palestinians, before they're Israelis, before they're Iranians, before Hamas, they are people first. And they all suffer some kind of trauma. They all suffer some kind of thing from their background, their history, that
Yeah.
causes them to love or hate the other. So like you said, without going into it, I'll just say that they are people first, and I believe that it is our responsibility as people. If we send good, some people may say, I'll send good vibes or whatever. I believe in prayer. So I am praying for those people because there are people who are continuing to lose their lives. There are people who are doing things that is intentional, and they're intentionally trying to kill them. I pray for them as well. Why? Because I believe in God, and God said our responsibility is to love our neighbor as we do ourselves, even when they do what we don't agree with. So I'm praying for the entire area, the entire region, and people on both sides of that, because there has to be healing in that area.
Yeah, yeah. I have a strong opinion about that situation over
Yeah.
there, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
but in this format, I will say that yes, I am sending my positive vibes for both sides. I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of innocent people dying on both sides, and
Yeah.
have been for decades.
For
Uh,
yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's been a nasty situation over there, and I just yeah, like I said, strong opinions over here.
Yeah. I got you.
I'm
Yeah, man.
gonna
Yeah, man. I understand
I,
that. I understand that, brother.
I'm gonna ask you one last question, Reese. Uh, looking to
Okay.
the future, looking to the future.
Yeah.
What are your aspirations and goals in both your music and entertainment and or
Mhm.
photography? What are your aspirations going into the future?
My aspirations going into the future. So my hope is within in the year of 2024. As we said, first quarter, my plan is to release This Is 50 of my photographic work. I am in the process now of recording 2 original songs. So I'll release um, 2 songs in the top of the year under my name for the first time. So I'm really excited about that. Got an opportunity to debut an original song. Um, I'm doing this coming Saturday. I'm doing the national anthem at the Sea and Sky Spectacular at the beach. But looking forward, my heart is to first learn that what I have is enough, and that it doesn't have to sound like or look like what everybody else's is. I have a story to tell. I have things that I want to say. So I'm gonna just start releasing stuff. I'm gonna start releasing music and start writing. I'm gonna get into doing jingles. I wrote a jingle the other day based on something someone said. Your little bit means a lot of bit makes a lot of bit of difference to me. Your little bit makes a lot of bit of difference to me. She said something to me, and I was like, "Wow, that works." So I think I'm gonna. Recorded that in my voice recorder. So I want to do that. I want to get into voice recording. I want to get into voiceovers. So I just want to explore that. I want to get back in the theater. So keep your eye on Reese Dickerson, and we'll see what happens. We'll just hearing God and wherever God directs me, and whatever opportunities come, I'm open to them, man. And I'm ready to just go take over the world and just touch the world with my gifts.
Well, I tell you, I love you, brother. I I
Love you too,
support
man.
I support everything that you do, and thank you so much for being here on
Yeah.
the program with us.
Brother, thank you so much. I could not have asked for a better gift. This is a gift. When you release this, I'm going to share this everywhere. I will tout your program and just let people know, because more people need to hear what you're saying. A lot of us get on this mainstream thing and we don't hear the Tracy Rigdons who have a lot to say and have a lot to say that weighs a lot, that bears weight. So, man, I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here with you, man. Thank you so kindly. I'm blessed. I feel blessed, bro.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and we will see you again, I am certain.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Well, that's a wrap. Another fantastic episode of the podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms, wherever you surf: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, wherever. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash that subscribe button. If you're streaming audio for the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast programs. In the meantime, I like to tell everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, peace.